I researched these three straight hair naturals, Mikali, Ashley Rogers and Roxana Renier, to see whether there was anything in common between these ladies that helped them grow their hair right down to tailbone length whilst maintaining straight natural hair and using heat. And it was really interesting to see that yes, there was so many things in common, and I'm going to share with you the 6 pieces of advice that they all share. What's up, Kellies? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Kiki, and if you are new here, I do all things curly hair tips, product reviews and styling. Today's video is all about the 6 pieces of advice that all of these 3 straight haired naturals share. So as we approach the winter time and the colder parts of the year, this is something that I'm becoming more increasingly interested about, because I really don't enjoy wearing my hair in its natural curly state when the weather is cold and it's wet and it's windy outside, and sometimes I just really don't want to put water or do much to my hair during those months. And I think that taking some advice from straight haired naturals, definitely if we are considering doing more blow dried styles during these winter months, is going to be very useful in attaining our hair length goals. So doing all of this research, it was so intriguing to see all of the different perspectives that these 3 ladies share, and I will link all of their YouTube channels so you can go and have a look for yourself if you see anything that you particularly like. But they definitely all kind of sing from the same hymn sheet when it comes to retaining length. All of them do really have long hair, at least tailbone length, and many of them do share the idea that retaining length on straight and stretched, blown out natural hair is much easier than when it was curly, as opposed to maybe someone who just has straight hair who really doesn't need to do much because it doesn't get tangled at all. The first piece of advice that all of these 3 ladies share is that they only trim on average twice a year. Now, Mika Lee says 2 to 3 times, but the other ladies both say twice a year. And this is just due to the fact that they believe that you don't need to trim your hair unless it is needed.
My next tip is to get trims, and make sure you're getting your trims on a consistent schedule. I like to trim my hair 2 to 3 times a year.
I trim my hair 1 to 2 times a year. I'm not really a person that believes in going in, getting a trim every 2 to 3 months.
Only get your hair trimmed when you need it, because if you don't need a trim and you're trimming your hair, you're never going to see the length, and it's gonna look like your hair's not growing even though it is. I definitely don't need a trim every 2 months, and if I was getting my hair trimmed every 2 months, I would not have the length that I have. For me, my trim schedule is twice per year, every 6 months.
And this is something that I am starting to get behind as I am going further into my hair growth journey, is the fact that unless your hair is actually damaged and split at the ends, there is no reason for you to be trimming your length off, because ultimately you are reducing the amount of length retention that you're going to see at the end of the day. So only trimming when needed is going to be a really good piece of advice that we can take away, even if we don't want to wear our hair in a straight natural state. We can still take that piece of advice away and apply it to our curly hair or protective or whatever journeys we've got going on. And I think this is a little bit easier with straight hair, because you can definitely see what needs to come off when your hair is in a stretched and straight state, because when it's curly, it often masks lots of split ends, single strand knots, any thinning, any gaps in the hair that you might not see when it's coiled up. And when it's straight, you can definitely see what your hair looks like. And I believe that this probably is one of the reasons what contributes to length retention overall, because you can actually target the damage and the things that your hair needs doing to it as you go along the months throughout the year, as opposed to just waiting for your next hair appointment or your next trim, and then when you stretch it out, it becomes a bit of a shock because you've actually not realized that your hair has split way up the hair shaft. So I definitely can get behind this idea of trimming, reducing the trims, but also being a straight haired natural and being able to see what is actually going on with your hair. The second piece of advice all of these ladies share is they all deep condition on a monthly basis, or every time they wash and shampoo their hair, they will deep condition. It makes sense because if you are heat styling your hair, you are gonna want to put a lot more back into the hair when it comes to those wash days. So deep conditioning on a monthly basis or every time they wash their hair is going to be really beneficial for these ladies, being that they are straight haired naturals. Now, Roxana mentions that she does from time to time use a protein treatment as and when she kind of sees fit.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why I was able to retain so much length with heat training, because heat can be damaging. And then also just having a haircut regimen that includes both protein and moisture is going to keep your hair balanced and healthy as well. And then with the protein treatments, I use them as needed. You know, if my hair is starting to feel a little bit mushy, anything like that, I will add in like an Alpha-G 2-minute reconstructor, or either you can add in just a deep conditioning hair mask that is protein based and has proteins in them.
The other two ladies don't really mention that, but what they do mention is about bonding treatments, which I'm going to get onto a little bit later. The third piece of advice that all of these ladies share is that they all kind of follow the same timeline of when they do their silk presses and their wash days. So it seems to be the 3 to 4 week mark as to when they will wash and shampoo and then blow dry and straighten their hair, as opposed to anything less than that. Now, Ashley Rogers does mention that she might do this on a 1 to 2 week basis at times, but she does say that if she decides to wash her hair more frequently, she will avoid doing silk presses every time. She will maybe do a silk press 1 week and then she will do maybe a blowout the next week and maybe use some like heatless curlers or something like that, or a braid out, as opposed to doing silk presses back to back, which makes sense because the amount of heat that your hair undergoes when you silk press and blow dry at one time is quite intense. So stretching out the period between when you actually do that is going to be something that will save the hair quite a lot of damage and breakage in the long run. So I definitely can see why they stretch the wash days over a period of 3 to 4 weeks. When I've had silk presses in the past, I can always get it to 3 weeks, and then when it gets to that 3 week mark, my scalp's getting a little bit itchy and built up and I'm needing to wash. I have stretched it to 4 weeks in the past, and I've just ended up doing like a load of slick backs just because that end week was just a hot mess. I can really see the kind of appeal in having a silk press for 3 to 4 weeks, because you really don't have to do much to it at all during that time. It's very, very low maintenance after the initial heat styling that you go through at the time. And while we're on the topic of silk presses, I'm going to just touch on the products that they all seem to mention. They all kind of use very high quality products.
It's called the Luxe One Leave-In, and of course I always have to mention my Tresemme Heat Tamer Spray. It is the Chi Silk Infusion.
It's the Olaplex number 9. I do the Redken Extreme Anti-Snap.
And this is the Kenra Professional Blow Dry Hairspray. It's a 10 Silk Express Miracle Leave-In Conditioner. This is the Chi Silk Infusion.
And as well as the products, it's kind of the steps that they take before they actually blow dry and straighten the hair. They all seem to be using a few steps before they go in with the blow dryer. So for example, Mika Lee, she will use the Olaplex oil followed by a leave-in kind of spray, like a moisturizing leave-in spray with some heat protectant, and then the Chi heat protectant, and then she will go in with the blow dryer after that. And it's very similar to the other two ladies. They both use heat protectant and they both use a leave-in sort of spray. And the leave-in kind of spray is something that's going to add moisture into the silk press and make sure it looks shiny and all that stuff. But as well, it's not just good enough to put an oil or a heat protectant on and just blow dry the hair and then leave it for 3 weeks. Obviously, we need to get moisture from somewhere, and being that heat saps the moisture out of our hair, we are going to need to make sure we put as much back in as possible. It's really interesting to see that all the ladies use high quality products. It's not just anything. They're using your Olaplex, they're using K18, they're using It's a 10, and all of these brands are very, very good brands, almost salon level products for specifically for heat or color or some sort of chemical process for the hair to ensure that it maintains its integrity. So I would recommend, definitely, if you are someone who's going to go and heat style your hair, you invest in those high quality products because it will save you in the long run. The fifth piece of advice that all ladies share is that they actually don't do much in terms of manipulation. They would class their routines on a kind of day-to-day basis very low manipulation, and this is because they all say that they do not go back in with a straightener after that initial blow drying straightening that they do on wash day. They don't then go in and use more heat throughout the week on top of that. So they will do that and then they will leave the hair alone until the next wash day, which I feel is really important because you can't be expecting to have healthy, long and heat styled hair and be using heat on a day-to-day basis. It's just not going to work. Your hair is going to end up breaking off and you're going to lose all of that length. So keeping your routine very low maintenance is key, especially when your hair is silk pressed. There's not much you actually need to do to it on a day-to-day basis. You might put it up in a ponytail, you might put it up in some braids. I know that Roxana actually mentions hair protective styling on her silk press, so we'll hear what she has to say about her routine on that.
Is that I don't manipulate into my hair a lot. Like, I will do my wash day routine every 3 to 4 weeks. I will either flat iron my hair and then wrap it at night to maintain my silk press for those 3 weeks. I'm not in my hair constantly styling it every day, constantly putting heat in it every day, because those things are going to damage your hair and cause more split ends. And just, you know, the more that you do to your hair, the more stress you're putting your hair through. So I feel like less is more. Like, stop playing in your hair so much. Just leave it alone, and, you know, trust me, your hair is going to thrive.
Very convenient because I just unwrap my hair and go. It literally takes me 1 minute max to style my hair in the morning.
And even when I do straighten my hair, y'all, I only straighten it once for the month, and then I make it stretch for that month, or at least try to make it stretch for that month. So low maintenance is also a part of not really shampooing that often. It kind of just plays into my lifestyle right now, right? I don't really have a lot of time, so wash my hair for the month, straighten it, make it stretch for the month, or wash my hair for the month. Lately I've been blow drying it to put even less heat on it. Yes, I'm putting heat on it, but it's less heat than the straightener. So I've been doing this blowout with my heatless curls.
I can really get the appeal of wearing a silk press, definitely with this idea that all of them at some point mention that the reason why they became straight hair naturals is because of the convenience and the lack of effort it takes on a day-to-day basis just to maintain the hair, that they don't have to be messing around, putting styling products in, doing this, doing that to the hair because it's tangled and all of that business. And it's something that I would definitely consider doing, just because I'm a lazy natural. I like to do my hair once a week, and that is my wash day, and then after that it's away. I don't need to mess with it again. But not to mess with it for 3 to 4 weeks on end sounds good to me. The 6th piece of advice that all of these ladies share is that they use heatless tools as well as the silk presses and things like that. And by heatless tools, I mean like heatless curlers, like flexi rods, those big kind of silk flexi rods what you can sleep in and then you wake up and you wear the curls as they are, roller sets, things like that, in order to manipulate the hair and get it to be maybe in a different style or a bit more voluminous, as opposed to going in with more heat styling tools. Especially if they are silk pressing, they're going to want to just alleviate as much heat as possible when they are styling throughout the week. For example, Ashley Rogers mentions that she will do her silk press and then maybe 1 week, and then the second week she might do a blowout and then just use a heatless curler instead and wear her curls like that in the sort of heatless blowout state, as opposed to going in with more heat tools. And I think this is a really useful and clever way of just changing your hair up and not having to use heat all of the time. Especially if you are a heat trained natural, it's going to be a lifesaver for your hair to be able to do that. Hope you enjoyed this video on the 6 pieces of advice that all of these straight haired naturals share. Let me know in the comments if you've ever considered being a heat trained natural, or if it's not something that you would actually do because you love your curls too much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to see more from me, and I will see you in the next one.